the Tuesday, January 9th, 2024 Board of Selectmen meeting to be held at the Harry Butters Selectmen's Chambers in Norwood, Massachusetts. As always, we'll begin the evening with a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, it's good to see everyone. Welcome back. I hope 2024 is starting off well for everyone here and out watching at home. We will start with warrant signature updates, submitting notification of reviewed and approved warrant reports signed by the board's representative.
Accept and file.
Motion to accept and file made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Item number 2, meeting minutes for approval of the board, submitting meeting minutes from the December 12th, 2023 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes from December 12th, 2023.
Motion to approve the minutes from December 12th, 2023, made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Mr. Sad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. We do have a few appointments this evening. We still got a few minutes, so we'll try to, actually, don't really want to get into new business at the moment.
Might be able to get an item or two done.
Yeah, okay. Yes, let's go right to item 4.3. Car wash request, should not be too controversial. Submitting a request from the Boy Scouts of America Troop 49 to host the car wash on Saturday, May 18th, 2024, and June 8th, 2024, in the municipal parking lot from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. Do we have a motion to approve?
Yeah, motion approved.
Motion approved made by Mr. Sad, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Item 4.4, Town Common Use Request. Nora Zaldivar, submitting request to use the Town Common for a candidate nomination form signature event. The event will take place on January 27th, 2024, from noon until 1 p.m. Noted is a snow rain date of January 28th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Mr. Plasko. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye,
On the
unanimous.
motion, Mr. Lane,
Yes,
if I could.
Mr. Donnelly.
So this is something that some citizens have been doing for several years now. So those folks who are interested or who are interested in serving on town meeting or who are due for re-election to town meeting in April, this is a good opportunity for folks to get together, get signatures. That's what it's for. So candidates are encouraged to avail themselves of the opportunity on the 27th at noon on the town common. Meet a lot of great people, and you get your nomination papers signed pretty quickly by going there. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, item 4.5, Town Common Use Request. Keisha Desir, submitting a request to use the Town Common for a Haitian Flag Day celebration on May 18th, 2024, from noon until 3 p.m.
Make a motion.
Motion to approve?
Motion approved made by Ms. Gross, seconded by Mr. Donnelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye, unanimous. Okay, we're good? All right. Our first appointment, 6:35, Cedar Market continuance. Christine, would you mind reading?
Hearing under Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws to consider whether the license to sell alcoholic beverages should be suspended, limited, or revoked for failure to provide the public with the services contemplated by the license. This is continued from August 22nd, 2023.
Great, thank you so much. And we do not have a representative from the business here.
No, sir. The board approved a license transfer for this business just a few months ago. It's in the ABCC process, so typically at this point, we just continue the hearing until the ABCC gives us notice.
And we have not yet received notice.
Correct.
Motion to continue hearing for 90 days.
Motion to continue the hearing for 90 days
Or
made.
the closest meeting there too.
Motion to continue the hearing for 90 days, or the closest meeting here too, made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Okay. We've got a 6:40, so we just hold on a few more minutes then. 4.4 was done, 4.5. Item 4.6, back to new business. Cemetery deeds for signature of the board. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve and accept made by Mr. Sad, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Item 4.7, Recreation Department donation acceptance. Mr. Mizuko, anything on this?
No, Mr. Chairman, other than a generous donation received by the Rec Department, and we bring all of the donations like this to the board for your approval.
Excellent. Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to accept with gratitude the donation.
Motion to accept with gratitude made by
Excuse
Mr.
me,
Donnelly.
were there conditions on that?
Unrestricted.
Unrestricted.
Very generous donation of $2,000.
Excellent.
The only
Motion.
restrictions for the rec department.
Correct. Well, yeah, good, thank you for the correction. You
You
are correct.
cannot, you can't have it. Motion made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Mr. Plasko. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Great. Item 4.8, LaRusso Materials Corporation for acceptance by the board. LaRusso Corporation submitting annual tonnage royalty payment to the town. Mr. Mizuko.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many years ago, the board negotiated with the LaRusso Corporation, which operates the asphalt plant on Pleasant Street, a donation to be made to the town to be banked away for any work on that road and/or eventual engineering or replacement of the bridge. They have presented the check for this year as part of that agreement. We request the board accept it as a donation, which is our process annually.
And to Mr. Plasko's earlier point, this donation is restricted.
Correct, specifically to work on that road or work or engineering related to the bridge on the road.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mizuko.
Motion to accept this 4453A donation to be deposited into the special account to be expended as stipulated.
Okay, motion to accept, just like Bill said.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Mr. Donnelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Item 4.9, Neponset Valley Sunrise Club submitting request to place a rotary sign at the entrance to the town. Rotary Club wants to put a sign on the Rotary.
Just what?
Not exactly on the rotary, but
What entrance?
it's the 1A side.
1A side?
Yep, we've had these periodically before, and different civic groups have. They send a come on and off. This is a morning Rotary Club that is working with a couple of area clubs, and if you were in my office earlier, they've sent the sign over, so it's a pretty standard Rotary sign.
Great.
Make a motion to approve the request from the Rotary Club.
Motion to approve the request made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Mr. Sad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Item 4.10, late agenda item, Historical Commission. For approval of the board, General Manager Tony Mizuko submitting a letter of reappointment for Judith Howard, Thomas Guillaume, and Cheryl Doyle to the Historical Commission. Mr. Mizuko.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All three members have expressed interest in being reappointed, and as is per our past practice, I make an appointment subject to the board's ratification.
Discussion from the board. Mr. Sad.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Made by Mr. Sad, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. And let's do item 4.11, Hometown Arcade submitting a request for a one-day liquor permit for an IDEX company party on January 23rd, 2024, from 5:30 PM until 9 PM, with approximately 50 to 60 guests expected. Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to approve the request.
Motion to approve the request made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor? On the motion, Mr. Plasko.
Thank you. I'm going to vote against this, Mr. Chairman. We've had some issues with this establishment in the past. It wasn't long ago, a few weeks back, that we actually denied an application and made the point to them to get their act together and get applications in on a timely manner and so forth. This didn't make it on our agenda. This was added as a last minute, just come in today. So just in general principles, we can't keep rewarding them for sloppy work. They have to get serious and be respectful to the sport in the process. So I will vote against it.
Thank you, Mr. Plasko. Any further discussion on the motion?
I support Bill. I mean, these people have got to realize that they have a project coming up or a plan. You know, give us some time, 3 hours notice, but that is what it is.
Yeah. I think my position, sorry, Mr. Donnelly or Ms. Grow.
Only question I had is there any additional context other than, it's here, it's late? We had some context of some of the previous ones, which was why we voted the way we did last time. Is this a repeated pattern, or is this some different circumstance that this ended up on here late?
I don't have further information. I would assume that maybe because of the holidays, this might have been a request that only just got to them from this company to have a maybe a late or a postponed holiday party. I would vote for it just because, we haven't met for a while, and our next meeting is on the night of this actual event. So in theory, they could have waited until that, which that's a bad idea too. So, but I see Mr. Plasko's point. I just think, this event is 2 weeks out, and that's kind of the bare minimum for me to feel comfortable giving them approval. So I think if it had been submitted, tomorrow or, too late, obviously, but that's my reasoning. Ms. Plasko?
Yeah, just an additional question on this particular establishment. They have a function room, and they also have their main arcade room. And we did ask for these one-day applications to give us plans, which they have done. But I wonder if it might matter to us, not even in this case, I'm kind of talking general now, that we might want to know in future applications. Does this mean they're going to be renting the entire, which I know you can do, and close down to the public because it's just for this event? Or are they in this event, but it's also going to be open to the public? That could be a concern or something we might at least want to be aware of.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
We can add that to the application in the future to let them, let us know, especially whereas you're right, this is one where we're not sure. A lot of the other one-day liquor licenses, we know are a closed event, it's just a club, or just a closed event, but we can add that to the
And
application.
then in their business, what's the word I want, program, you can rent the place out.
Sure,
Yeah.
But we don't know if that's the case or not.
correct.
Just,
Yeah.
just a thought.
No, it's a good point. I think moving forward, we could amend the application, especially for, not all places,
Have
have
that
this sort of.
situation, yeah.
Yeah, but it would be good to clarify. I would assume,
It is a unique situation,
I would assume on a Tuesday night that it's a closed event.
might be.
So, yeah, it's good. Okay, back to the motion. Anything further, Ms. Grow or Mr. Donnelly?
I'm so far still leaning in favor because the problem we had before was being asked about an event literally like, a day or two before the event was going to happen. To me, 2 weeks lead time is sufficient. And I know it came in late for this particular meeting, but 2 weeks is sufficient for me.
Okay. Mr. Donnelly, anything?
I would agree with Ms. Grow. Yes, I would certainly prefer that any applicant come in on a more timely basis, but we have not met since December the 12th. I will give some leeway in this particular instance that we're still a couple weeks away from their scheduled event. So I would vote to support the request.
Okay. I'll pull individually. Mr. Sad?
I'd like to make just a light of a side motion that maybe we put a note to this company, because they seem like, as Bill mentions, they keep coming back for a quick one-day liquor license, that to give us some maybe 30-day notice, 24-day notice.
Or some context with the request?
Something, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, that gives us at least some planning of it too.
My personal opinion is the comments that 2 weeks is enough time is enough time. My objection is it didn't get here by last Friday. But it came in
No.
today, it gets slipped in under the agenda, and
Yeah, I know.
without notice, all weekend when we had our agenda, we didn't know this was coming up.
But we asked them last time, I think, we said, give us some time, and now it's a
Yeah.
day
Well,
off.
that's the point, we also told them, and they said,
Yeah.
oh yeah, well, if we messed up, we'll do it right in the future, and here they are, not doing it right.
I would imagine maybe it's something that came in since Friday, or I would hope that.
I think it just came in yesterday.
Can't-
Meaning
This morning,
from the-
sorry.
Meaning the company.
Yeah,
that-
Yeah,
that,
the
you know, like-
event, yeah. And that's certainly possible. You do want to be, some cases you want to be accommodating of a business. Somebody walks in and says, I want to book a 60-person event on a night where you're otherwise completely dead. They don't want to say, sorry, we
Sure.
don't have enough time if they don't. So you understand it. But on the other hand, did it just come in yesterday? Did they just
Yeah.
get the request
Yeah.
yesterday? I guess you
Yeah.
give them the benefit of the doubt, but.
Hearing nothing further, Mr. Sad?
I'm gonna vote with you, Mr. Chairman, on this, and just to let them know that next time they come up, don't give us 1 day, 30-day notice, or 24, somewhere in that line.
Okay. Ms. Grow?
Yes.
Mr. Plasko?
No.
Mr. Donnelly?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 4-1. Great, okay. Our next appointment, 640 Carillon Preservation Discussion. Lee Leach and Kristen Phelps submitting information regarding the proposed plaques that acknowledge the Carillon Restoration Project. Please introduce yourselves, and then the floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair, My name is Lee Leach, and I'm here with Kristen Phelps, and we're here to present to the board for your approval a placement of 3 plaques that honor the preservation work that was was completed back in 2021 and 22. We've been working on these for a little bit of time, and now we think we have something that will work. You have in your packets location images of the 3 plaques. They will, one will be next to an existing plaque in this main stairwell downstairs, and then two others. One would be on the 3rd floor entrance to the Carillon, and then the 3rd plaque would actually be up on the Carillon console. So today we are here to for your approval, your blessing around the location of these, and also the content. If you will take a quick look and make sure that we have what we presented to you is good for public display, and if we missed anything. Kristen is here from Community Preservation. She's the coordinator of the Community Preservation Committee. I can't answer any of your questions. Kristen can.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll open it up to the board. Mr. Donnelly, I saw your hand up.
So, it's my understanding that when a project is funded by the CPC, that it's generally required by the committee to have a public notice assigned indicating that the project was supported by the Community Preservation Committee and Act. So this is consistent with that. On your location 1, which is would be right next to the existing plaque for the Memorial Carillon on the ground floor, on the main floor rather. This is kind of technical, how does it get inserted into that panel? Do we know? And will it be done in a manner that won't harm the panel work, if you will?
Yes, we've taken those considerations. We've worked, Kristen has worked with the vendor to make sure it's properly sized and will fit where we want it to be, and we'll be working also with the facilities people to make sure that it is installed properly so that it just won't, it's not just going to be slapped up there. It'll look really professional.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Leach. That was the only question I had.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Riley. Mr. Shedd.
I want to thank both for your time and effort in this project, and I know it's near and dear to your heart, so congratulations and thank you for all your help and support.
Thank you, Mr. Sen.
Thanks. Having spent probably the most time out of all of us in town hall, I'd be interested to hear your opinions,
Well, I
Mr.
think
President.
it's wonderful. It's a feature the town has that they're very proud of, and lucky that we have people who are interested in maintaining it and keeping it alive for us. I know I have a grandson who lives in another town, who's been up there, and he's given him the tour, and he really appreciates it, and every time he comes to Norwood, he says, "Is he up there?" I said, "Not 24/7, no." But no, it's just a great asset to the community, and your involvement and keeping its use alive is a wonderful thing. Let me just thank you all. Thank you for it.
Well, thank you for the kind comments, Mr. Glasgow. It was a pleasure having your grandson up there.
Yeah, I will say, earlier, I think it was over the summer, there was a Boy Scout troop that came, and Mr. Mizuko and I had them here and talking about the very exciting workings of Town Hall, and we took them up to play, and we didn't let you know in advance, which maybe was my fault, and a few notes in, someone comes bounding up the stairs, and it was Lee, and he saw friendly faces, and he stayed and showed the kids how to play. It was great, so much appreciated. Are you okay with the
Yes, personally, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yes.
If I could just add one more thanks for both you and Kristen for being here, but not only, Mr. Leach, are you our town Carillon, and you put together the summer concerts, you play for the town at many events of our events, but I hate to use this term, but you were also instrumental in the project to refurbish those bells. And I don't know, I
Let's
don't
not
think
encourage.
people understand how much work is involved with the detail that was needed to refurbish those bells, which are over 100 years old. So I thank you personally for your work on the project as well.
Thank you. And I've never seen the word Carolyn or in print, so now I know how it's spelled. Anything else from the board? And do we need a vote for approval?
For the
Okay.
request for the signage for the Caroline restoration.
Motion to approve the request before us for signage made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you, Kristen.
See you tomorrow night, Chris. Okay, that brings us to our next appointment, the Concert Committee. Discussion of the Winter Concert Series 2024. Lee, you're going to stick around?
I am.
All right.
I
I know, it was a joke. Thank you for being here. If you would like to introduce everyone at the table, and after that, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Paul Lisi. Thank you for the appointment, and I'm actually representing the concerts on the Common Committee. So I'm going to name everybody on the committee, and I'm going to tell you who's here, but I'd like to acknowledge the committee members. So first, it's Oliver Abdella, Town Manager Tony Mizuko, our Assistant Town Manager Mike Rosen, who's to my right, Dave Tuttle, who's not with us tonight, Bob Donnelly, who's the Selectman and the chair of the entire concert series, Lee Leach, who's to my right, Dorothy Bravois is not here, Pat Schick is not here, and Jean Vatour to my left. So these are all the committee members, and I'll say in front of everybody, it's a pleasure to work with all you guys. So I'm basically gonna just acknowledge, right, you've met the committee members. I'd like to take a moment and just thank the sponsors, because it's the sponsors that donate to this program that makes it possible. So in the Friends category, I want to thank Deborah Liu, Dempsey Insurance, Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane, the Norwood Democratic Town Committee, Norwood Engineering, Norwood Police Association, Norwood Rotary Club, Robert Donnelly and Michelle St. Pierre, Roach Brothers, Susan Lewis, the Vertex Companies. And then I'd like to thank the Silver Batons, Bank of Canton, Norwood Women's Club, Norwood Women's Community Committee. The Bronze Batons, I'd like to thank A13 or A13 Architects, Central Motors of Norwood, Dedham Savings Bank, Maya Dana and Sons, Norwood Space Center, One Bistro, One Local Bank, Poirier Service Corporation, and the Block Fund. And then in our most high category, the Gold Batons. Big thank you to Cadillac of Norwood, Diane Shelby Rojo Company, the Norwood Firefighters Local 1631, the Norwood Record, Providence Highway Realty Trust, Herb Chambers Companies, and the Skating Club of Boston. So a big thank you to all the donors, and I mean, we appreciate it. We look for these donations so that we can bring this music to the townspeople. And I know I've been probably coming here at this table for the last 30 years, so, and many of them are the same sponsors, some of them are different, and we're always looking for more, so it's well appreciated. And now I'd just like to tell you that our first concert's gonna be January 28th. I believe today's January 9th. And I asked Mr. Donnelly the Tuesday before the 28th to remind the townspeople, the first concert at 2 o'clock at the Norwood High School. January 28th is the Compact Big Band. February 4th, it's a new band to me, I have not heard them, is Silver Spears. February 11th is Dan Gabel and the Abletones. And February 18th, the SOS Big Band. So again, it's free admission to the townspeople. We love having you guys up at the high school, all of you, and it's time for us to get out, enjoy each other, enjoy a wonderful, winter afternoon on a Sunday. I just want to say one thing, that it's a pleasure to serve on this board, and I'll tell you why. We've lost members over the years, and we've gained members as well. But one thing that remains constant is the town manager's support. The town manager and the assistant town manager, Mike Rosen, they're always there for us. And because these guys give us the support we need, that's why this program continues. So I just want to take a moment and just acknowledge that. And I'd like, Bob, if you have a few moments, if you could just, there's a new band February 4th, people in the community have asked me. I don't know anything about them, so if you can kind of
Sure.
introduce that band.
So on the winter concerts, traditionally they've been mirroring sort of the summer Sunday concerts. Usually we're focused on swing music or big bands. So the last couple of seasons we've tried to integrate a band that might be a little different from swing and big band music. So the compact big band, they've played at the summer concerts many times. Dan Gabel and the Abletones. By the way, February 11th is our Valentine's Day celebration. I think Dan and his band is always there for Valentine's Day. And the SOS Big Band on February the 18th are all big band swing music, all terrific bands. On the 4th of February, we have the Silver Spears, and they are an Irish Celtic band who have played in the summer concert series at Summerfest many times. So it's February 4th. It's a little early for St. Patrick's Day, but we'll just have to make it work. That's a little bit different than the, but last year we tried a country and western rock duo, and it worked out well. So it's the committee kind of just decided to do something a little different with the Silver Spears as well. All concerts at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock at the Paul Alberta Performing Arts Center.
Thank you, Bob.
Great.
And we will, it's very much run like the summer concerts, so it's free admission. We will have a free gift raffle intermission. Just before 3, the band will take a break, and we'll be raffling off the gifts that have been donated, because in addition to the list of people who donated to the committee, the concert series, we also have done a lot of work. I particularly credit Pat Chick, who isn't here tonight. Pat is terrific at swinging around town and convincing merchants to donate small gift certificates that we raffle off at our concert series, and the audience really loves that. It's a nice feature of the concerts that we'll continue into the winter.
Bob, could you just tell the townspeople what the raffles are this winter? I think there's a list at the bottom of the program, if I'm right.
Well, yeah, there's a few more I know of here, but yeah, we have in the past and we will in the future Conrad's, Jake and Joe's, the Juice Bar, Limey's, Missoula, Spot, Yankee Spirits. I think this past year we had Castle Island and the Irish Brewery also donate gift certificates. I know I'm missing a couple, but we will come back in the spring with another program for our summer series, and we'll update that list, because I know we have that list keeps growing, which is great. Daddy's Dairy was actually one that supported us, Mike, I think, in the summer concert series as well. So
I mean, I know the people love the raffles, so that's why I wanted you to
Yeah.
just tell them what they
Yeah.
look forward to.
they do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Anything from the board?
Congratulations, Paul, you've been doing it a long time. You and the board and everybody, Dave, and everybody that's been doing that, congratulations. My only thought is, and when they come into the front of the high school, I've been up there last year at the concert, some of the high school programs they sell, like, I'm not sure if candy bars would be appropriate for the crowd, but waters and stuff like that as a fundraiser to help them out. Have you ever given that any thought?
I mean, we could, I mean, we've never really thought of that.
Just throwing it
But
out
it
there.
is something to think about. I mean,
Yeah.
if it would certainly help another organization, why not?
Yeah, but other than that, keep up the great job.
Thank
and
you, Michael.
Keep it going.
Excellent.
Just wanted to express, thank you, wanted to express deep appreciation for these events and all the effort that goes into organizing them and supporting them, because they're just such a great bright spot in the middle of winter for residents, and my spouse and I have enjoyed them plenty of times, and it's really a great time to get together with the community.
Thank you.
I think next year we may try to have Mr. Leach play at the winter concert series. We'll just find a way to move those bells over to the high school. What do you think?
That'd be a heavy lift.
It would be.
Ms. Plasko?
I don't know, I think I heard Paul say that he's been coming up here for about 30 years. I think I've been listening to him for about 30 years. But it's always wonderful because it's for such a good community function, and it always, as was mentioned, takes the volunteers to make it happen. So the rest of us have to take our hats off to you and thank you.
Thank you very
And
much.
this winter series that we're talking about specifically tonight, it's a new addition, 5-6 years now? Oh, more than that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe so.
Seems like yesterday anyhow. But it's still a new addition, and it's a wonderful time. People really get up there and enjoy it, and thank everybody who volunteers and helps make it work.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, it's great, and you all do a great job, and it's a really nice event for the town, and it's also, if you're a candidate running for a local board, it's a nice way to meet people too. So we definitely encourage people just to go and meet some folks. Anything else?
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Take care. Good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you.
Okay, we've got another appointment. Is Paul, Mr. McGovern, is he out in the hallway? Okay, great. Great. Thank you for being here, Mr. McGovern. Great.
For accommodating us.
Yeah, no problem. So, this isn't a public hearing, this is a discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have time to present, and the board will have questions,
Yep.
and then we can talk about process
Yes.
a little bit. So, when you're ready, the floor is yours. If you could introduce yourself and your colleague.
Yep.
And the slide, were you good? Everything set up with the slides?
Did you get all the presentation earlier?
I did. Christine.
It's in the download.
Okay. Well, we'll ramp it up while you're,
Good evening, folks. My name is Paul McGovern. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us. This is my colleague Liam Swanton. We are the owners of 923 to 929, two separate properties. 923 is an old derelict commercial building. 926, or the net adjacent property is two-family. Once we get the slide up, I can show you guys the properties. But we are looking to do a development project at the property, and we are looking to do a lip, which requires the support of the town. So we're here to make a presentation this evening of the project. I know I've presented it, shown it, mentioned it to some of you guys previously, but just to have a discussion about it and present you the project.
Great.
So as you can see, 923 to 929 Washington Street in Norwood, and in the background you can see what the proposed property or the proposed development looks like. So I could ask you to move on to the next slide, please. So just about the location, for anybody who's not familiar with it, it's the property next door. It abuts the Honeydew Donut, or Mr. Frank's Food Mart on Washington Street, just straight out the street from here. We believe it's a very accessible location and a suitable location for a project of this type and style. It's adjacent to the new hospital. It will be 0.3 of a mile, 7 minutes walk according to Google Maps. Faster, I'm sure, if you're a quicker walker. 0.6 of a mile from here, from Norwood Centre, so again, very walkable to town centre. The nearest commuter train station, as you guys know, is Norwood Central. Again, 0.4 of a mile, 9 minutes walk to it. Moderna is approximately an 8 minutes drive, and with no traffic downtown Boston is a 35 minutes drive away. It's a short distance from Route 1, it's a short distance from 95. We believe, as all of the town of Norwood is, it's a very accessible location. But we think that this is a very suitable location in town, walking distance to a lot of big employers, walking distance to a lot of facilities, restaurants, cafes, all of that sort of thing, and obviously the hospital, which will be coming online relatively soon, hopefully. If I could ask to go to the next slide, please. So again, this is just kind of showing what's there currently. I think most people are probably fairly familiar with the properties. The commercial property, my understanding is, has been thorn in the side, eyesore of the town for multiple years. It's in a very poor state of disrepair. It has been neglected, I would say, for the last 20 years. It was filled with trash. We have taken about 10 dumpsters of stuff out of it, and it is still filled with trash. but we've taken the significant stuff out of it. We've emptied it. We have covered over twice now. Actually, we have covered the roof of the residence with tarps. We've sealed up the entrances. It was a hub for raccoons and various other residents who weren't paying rent in it. So we've kind of sealed it up a little bit and fixed it up. The property adjacent to it is a two-family which is currently rented. Could do with quite a bit of work on it as well. With regard to the overall location, just highlighted some of the the key locations. The property itself is here. Norwood Hospital is here right beside it. Obviously the train station right beside it's only a short distance from the new FM Global campus. Not a lot, big distance from from the Moderna property as well. So again, repeating what I said earlier, I believe that's a very suitable location for housing. The next slide is, so again, this is just showing in slightly larger detail what's existing. So the two properties, this is the commercial. So this actually got 2 street addresses. This was a residence. It's a very unusual structure where the commercial building completely surrounded the residence. The two of them became one, I would imagine, at some point. But the roof is in very tough shape. There's a lot of water getting into the property, and it's on the verge of collapse. Shouldn't say that, it's not on the verge of collapse, but there's sections of the roof exposed and things like that. So we have secured it, made it safe. It's dry now for the most part, is secured in the short term. So about the project itself, the total site taking up the two properties totals 36,956 square feet, so 0.85 of an acre. As I mentioned, we're proposing to do a LIP. It would be a fully rental project. It would not or could not be condoized at any point. It would remain a rental project throughout. So the units could never be sold individually. If something was being sold, it would have to be the entire building as a rental property. 25% of the units would be deemed affordable, and that would be maybe not in perpetuity, but I believe for 30 years, and then it likely would get renewed after that. So, and that transfers with any transfer of property ownership, so that remains. Currently, we are looking at the development that we're proposing is 32 units. We have 5 1-beds, 21 2-beds, and 6 3-bed units. 25% would require 8 of those units to be affordable. What we're looking at currently at the rear of the property, and I'll show a site plan in a minute, is 43 parking spaces to go with the 32 units. 2 of the units would be required to be full ADA, fully wheelchair accessible units. The intent with the building would be to put in an elevator, so we would consider that to make all units accessible. While obviously there will be stairs and escape stairs and all of that, all floors will be accessible by elevator, which makes all units accessible. We are proposing, if you can see on these lower roofs here, where you see there's like a door out onto each one. We're proposing to do like a common space for the residents of the building, potentially a roof garden or community space. We're thinking on one of the areas you could have some outdoor seating and stuff like that, and in the second area we're talking about doing like a planting garden, so if people wanted to do some herbs and stuff like that they could use that area for that. The flat roof at the back, we would look at, on the higher roof, we would look at putting all of the air conditioning units, all of the infrastructure for the building, and probably solar panels if feasible as well on that roof. So kind of out of sight but to service the building and to avoid the necessity of having to put them on the ground. Another feature is we're looking at having an indoor trash room. So the trash would have to be taken out by property management on a weekly basis or whatever for disposal. So again, that keeps the site tidier typically and keeps down raccoons and things like that. It limits them from around the site and helps to keep the site cleaner. So in general, that's kind of a summary of the project. If I could ask. Okay, so this is kind of at right angles, but it's the only way it would fit on the page. So this is basically kind of a site plan. It shows the building. At the front, we've broken up the building, so it doesn't have quite the same mass. It's could be described as kind of two separate buildings with a link corridor, even though it is all one structure, but it's kind of in two separate wings. What that allows is it allows for two courtyards, kind of a courtyard at the front and a courtyard at the back. The primary entrance for the residents of the property, all of the parking is at the rear of the property, as you can see on this. The primary entrance for the residents would be, when they come in parking, would be through the rear entrance of the building. There is obviously an entrance out to the front of the building, also for pedestrian, bicycle, for all that sort of entrance. But those that are living there and parking in a car would be more likely to use the rear entrance of the property. Like I said, there's 43 parking spaces. We have done turning circles for fire trucks and stuff like that that would need to be presented to the fire department, but we have taken that into consideration in the layout. That covers kind of the site plan. So again, if I could ask to go to the next one. So again, this is the render that we have come up with for the property. We think it's quite a pretty building and a well-designed building for the location. What we have done, so we started off initially looking at a building that was full 4-story and there was 42 units. And I know there was some concerns expressed about the density of 42 units and the full 4 floors throughout. So we actually reduced it in a redesign. We reduced the footprint, we reduced it to 32 units, and we took a story off the front of the building to reduce the mass, particularly from Washington Street, which is the main place where you would view it from. So the front of the building is 3 stories, and then towards the rear of the building it increases to 4 stories. The front entrance, you've got a nice courtyard which will be landscaped in from the front. Obviously wheelchair accessible. You will have similar from the back. You can see the gas station and the other existing building there. We think, as it is currently, that it's quite a nice design of a building for the location that's there. If you go to the next, you'll see a ground level render. The gas station wasn't fully included on this one, but that's the gas station to the right of it. And the following one is the rear elevation. So the site itself is, I think there's about 15 feet of a gradient difference from Washington Street up to the back, to the highest point at the back of the lot. What we are proposing to do is to dig down a certain distance and do a retaining wall around the parking lot at the back with a fence on top of it. One of the main reasons to do that would be to provide as much protection as possible from the abutters at the rear of the property. There aren't too many altogether, but to give those that are at the rear of the property some protection from, it would help with noise, but certainly from car lights and things like that driving into it. So you can see on this that the parking lot is slightly higher than the building, and there might be a second tier on the parking lot as well. But around the perimeter of the parking lot there will likely be a retaining wall to lower the entire site relative to all of the neighbours. So asked to go to the next one, please. So this is the ground floor plan. You can see we have the elevator, it's got a mail room, we have a 700 square foot community room for the use of the residents. It's a mix of 1, 2 and 3 bed, as I said earlier. If you take a look at the typical size of a unit, a 2-bed unit is 1,200 square feet, 3-bed unit is 1,482 square feet, a 1-bed on this is 888 square feet, so they're not small units. We tend, on any of our previous projects, we do what we would describe as a higher end unit, crown mouldings, stone countertops, stainless steel appliances. We don't distinguish between the affordable units and the market rate units. You can't tell the difference in the construction between them. Generally we go for higher end finishes, hardwood floors, tiled bathrooms, all of that throughout in large size units. So we would consider these to be definitely higher end finishes in the units. So you can see I included the typical floor plans here. So that's the first floor, or sorry, the ground floor. If I could ask to go to the next one, please. Second floor plan, second and third in this are exactly the same, so just put the second floor on it. So again, same thing, you can see the elevator takes you up. And then, next one please, fourth floor, so you can see here the resident roof deck and the resident planter garden. So these would be facilities for the residents of the building. So, next slide please. So just about ourselves as a developer, significant experience in basically in all types of construction. I'm in construction myself, just thinking about driving over in the car, 23 years, since I graduated college. I've experience in residential, commercial, hotels, various amounts of it. The last number of years we have had a concentration on high-end single-family homes in Dover, Needham. Locally, I live in Needham. We're based out of Dover, so we're a local company. We have been concentrating on projects like this for the last couple of years. The first one we did was Medfield Meadows. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with it, on Route 27 in Medfield, 36 unit development. The last unit was sold in the last 6 months, so that project is fully completed. It's a mix of 40B rentals and 40B for sale units, but we believe it was a very successful project and a really nice development for the town of Medfield. One we're working on currently, which is this one here, it's known as Red Robin Pastures. It's on Route 109 in Dover, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. It's about half a mile the far side of Buckingbrook, the ice cream store on the right hand side. It's a 34 unit project. Again, very similar in style and size of units and scale to the project that we're proposing for here. We have worked very well with the town. We ended up with 0 objections to the project. We worked collaboratively with the town through the project, and have continued to do so. And again, we believe this will be a very successful project for the town of Dover, which doesn't have any other rental projects of this nature in the town. We also have a project at 1060 Main Street, Millis, which is just waiting final decision on from ZBA. That's a 24 unit. That's this project here. That's the front building kind of down along the side in Millis. This is actually the Medfield one here. It's not a far out photograph. So just to give you an idea of some we have done similar projects on this scale and are currently doing similar projects on this scale. So not only are we the developer, we're also the contractor. So we contract our own projects as well. So we have a good level of control over what goes on the projects. If I could ask to move to the next page, please. What I put on this page, so as part of the LIP process, I'm sure you guys are more familiar with it than I am, we require the support of the town in order to proceed with the LIP. I just included the document here, that the pages from the document that are relevant to that, but obviously I'm sure you guys are more than familiar with it. So in summary, we thank you for your time, and we hereby request your support for what we believe will be a positive and beneficial development for the town of Norwood. So open to any questions or comments.
Great. Thank you, Mr. McGovern. So as mentioned before, this is a sort of the initial discussion. This is the first time that the public, I would assume, is becoming aware of this project. We're not taking a vote this evening. If things progress in the way that you would like, you would be back here before us at some time in the near future. So with that being said, the expectation for right now is just for the board to ask questions, and if we need more information, to make sure that you understand what we need. So I will open it up to the board for questions, comments, concerns. Mr. Sad.
I want to thank you guys. I know I drive by all your projects and they're all well done, and congratulations, and keep going.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, the color on the building, what is the difference between the way you've got it designed? If on the pastel colors versus the silver, or?
So I would consider them all kind of nearly to pastel. The three colours there's kind of two versions of grey, and then the white would more than likely be a fibre cement panel.
So the whole back, the four-story building's gonna be a white pastel.
The four-story part of the building in that scenario, correct, would be white. And then we've kind of broken it up with, again, this is not fully finalised, but it's what what we're working on currently. Then that's a light grey and a darker grey on the front of it, which would be a hardy siding or something similar. And the other would be more of a panel on the white would be more of a panel. So you're mixing up the textures as well as the colours. So you're getting kind of different sizes.
One more question. Where does the roof drains or the water going? Where's this whole system going?
It will all be internal. We haven't looked at that yet, but and we will have to do obviously engineer plans for the site for drainage. We'll have to. Requirements will be that we retain all the surface water is retained on site.
All right.
So we have already done some testing, some groundwater testing on site, and we're kind of obviously we don't want to go too deep until we've a little further into the project, but we know that will be a requirement of it. But the roof drains plus the surface water from site will be
Yeah, because that'll come directly right through the South Norwood.
correct.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sett. Ms. Grove?
No questions from me. Some of the questions I had, you actually managed to cover in some of the presentation. The main was I had a sense of how parking was going to be, but the diagrams that you provided made that super clear, so
Okay.
so it's looking good to me.
Mr. Plasko?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a number of, I don't know, probably float in between questions and comments. I'm thrilled to see something happening here. It's been at least 40 years we've been wanting this to get cleaned up, and it's time. That being said, I'm not going to just approve anything. And going with the whip very much involves the town being involved in the whole process and having an opportunity to get what we want out of it that also makes sense for you from a business point of view and that you're going to make a profit on it. But there's some things we have to have, in my opinion, very clear before we sign off on it. And need answers like you're talking about. You're still looking at some things. Before I vote, I want them to be finalized. I want to know when we approve what we're approving and that that's what you're going to do, that you're going to be committed to that project. So far, I did have the opportunity to walk the site with you and talk about it. And the concern I had was with the parking and the access for fire, ambulance, emergency vehicles and so forth. And last time we spoke, you still hadn't reviewed it with the fire department, and I didn't hear you mention it tonight. And I noticed you're still showing plans with 43 parking spaces, and it doesn't seem like anything's changed, so I'm assuming you have not yet met with the fire department.
We have not presented to it. I wanted this to be our first presentation. Obviously, we don't want to go to any of the other departments in town until we, are comfortable that this is a feasible project.
Right. And I appreciate that, but I'm just trying to stress the things that, as far as I'm concerned, need to get done and we need to be comfortable with. That's required anyhow under Mass Code for the fire chief to review and to approve it, access and so forth, but just want to make sure we know that it happens. Something you mentioned that concerns me, I think, if I heard you correctly, that you mentioned the affordability for 30 years.
That's the initial affordability is 30 years, and then I believe it gets renewed.
Yeah, we always have had any of these projects in perpetuity, and I believe that's even the law. They used to be 30 years, and then there was actually famous case in Wellesley, and it's in perpetuity. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and that is how it would be built. Because if we're giving in to more density, this is probably the densest development in town so far. If it goes forward as proposed. It's denser than Avalon Bay, denser than anything else we have, I believe, unless I'm missing one. So we want to make sure the project's done right.
I may have misrepresented that. My understanding is the legal paperwork initially states 30 years, but that it has to be renewed or reviewed or whatever after that, and that it typically it is in perpetuity. That's my understanding.
Yeah, we'll clarify that, but
Yeah.
that would be the goal that we're.
Yeah.
And you just had comments, discussions about the exterior whatever is finally planned, you're willing to commit to that,
Absolutely.
not something being changed later. I'm concerned about your discussion of an interior trash room. I'm worried about that from, I know so far it's not in the plans. And if that might turn out to be something you decide you can't do, and all of a sudden there's now a dumpster or an outside
No, if you-
compactor of some type.
It is on the plans.
It is.
It's on the ground floor plan, actually. I'm not sure if you got a copy.
Yeah,
of it.
mine's kind of small. Actually, got a
It's-
bigger one here.
Yeah, so actually, I'm not sure if you can zoom in on that. It's on,
Can you see it from the slide?
no, next one, if you, the ground floor one, please.
So how do you manage that? How do you maintain
This-
that?
this- So this area here is all, there's actually a trash chute up through the building.
Okay,
So it has to be, in this current configuration here, there's 3 dumpsters, and there's double doors out onto the sidewalk here at the back. So once a week, twice a week, whatever it takes based on the building, these gotta get brought to a pickup point, manually brought to a pickup point for collection.
have you done that at any place
We're
anywhere else?
actually, we're doing it in the Dover project.
Really?
Yes.
And we don't have any health issues? We're not worried about being inside the building and
No, obviously it's got to have ventilation, it's got to have sprinklers, all of that. It's
Board of Health got involved in approving that?
I don't believe
They
they
haven't?
did. I know at the ZBA, it was, I wouldn't say it was a requirement, but they were very happy not that it wasn't outside for cleanliness and tidiness reasons and dirt blown all over the place and things like that. But yes, it is, and obviously that's a commitment from us that to maintaining it and having somebody there on a weekly basis to bring dumpsters out, but that's just part of property management.
I'm concerned, you know that I've expressed concern with the height in the 4th floor. I believe it starts to change the character of the town. We've already got a few units that have been built that all we hear is complaints from people about the looks and how it's changed the community. And I don't know that we want to be promoting that further. Your design has it set back, which is in itself a nice feature. It makes it more acceptable, but it still affects all the people in the backside. And you look at your pictures, you can see you back right up to another neighborhood, residential area, as well as the property right next door. It's clearly going to be in the shadows of this building now. So I don't know, we would be approving, we're not just approving a concept here that, gee, this is nice, we want to get rid of that old junky building, and you're going to put something nice. But what the effects are going to be, because we're basically waiving a lot of our zoning regulations to let this happen. And so I think we have a responsibility to take that seriously and look at it and consider the effects of that. And I know I've mentioned to you once, it's still my opinion, that it's nice that we're meeting tonight, it's nice that we're going over this. It's nice that if anyone's watching, they get to see this and start to be involved in it. But usually we don't have any kind of projects like this that don't go forward unless we've had some kind of hearings, unless we've had neighbors in to state anything, any concerns they might have, so that we can either ignore them because they're not in my backyard and have no merit, or they're very sound concerns and we find a way to address them. But at least we hear them and consider them. And I think we should be including, even if it's right here, at our next meeting, where at least the butters and the butters to butters are notified and have an opportunity to come. I think hopefully the board would consider some type of ensuring there's some kind of public review, if not direct input into the project before we proceed. Even if in the end we don't change anything, I think it should be part of the project, part of the process. The other thing, I'm a little concerned, how committed are you to the rooftop garden? I know it's a nice, sounds like a nice concept, happens in the city. I think, if I'm not mistaken, again, be the first to know it. I'm a little concerned about what might happen out there and what kind of, how we control it from a visual point of view, right on the main street.
So, everything is up for discussion, so not necessarily, your first question was how committed we are to it. I do like the idea of it, but we would be looking at, you'd be looking at probably a 4-foot parapet wall above it, so for the most part from ground level, you're not going to see almost anything that happens up there.
But who's gonna manage what happens? In other words,
Well,
they're gonna have umbrellas and things out there that could blow away winds?
There will be obviously a property management company in place managing the property. I would assume everything that's there is taken in for the winter, obviously in the event of a storm or anything like that. And we can't risk anything from a safety point of view for either for the residents of the building or for anybody else for that matter either. That would be, obviously from our own insurance point of view, that would be
Right.
very wise.
So, I don't know why I didn't think of this before this evening, but a little earlier I was looking at your plans again. What is the reason, I'm sure you have one, for the positioning of the building? Why is it to the right? Why isn't it to the left?
Well, the driveway is currently is to the left.
Yeah, why isn't
Um,
it shifted that way instead of,
There is no, it's probably easier to access the rear yard on that left-hand side, but there is no major reason for it to be one side versus the other. That's where the driveway, that's where the curb cut is already. Also, it's just kind of where we positioned it on the site. We can definitely explore looking at it. Actually, one of the reasons was to not be too close to the exit from the garage, so you don't have two exits there right beside each other.
the garage?
The gas station.
Well, that was my concern, that we're so close to the gas station. I think at one point you have no setback at all at the back corner of the building.
But are we concerned that if you have a driveway, if our driveway was next to the gas station driveway, you potentially have two cars pulling out more or less in the same place at the same time? That was one of the concerns.
Probably not, because to get to your back, it'd have to be an incline and they're flat. So you'd have some kind of divider there but not be in the same place.
No, I understand, there'll be separate, but
Yeah.
if there's two arriving at the same time, is there a potential there for who
Well,
goes first?
coming out at Washington Street.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
I hear what
coming
you're
out onto
saying, yeah, okay. It's just a thought that it might, if you look closer at the location and to the abutter of neighbors and so forth, and I know there's a business on the other side where Cove is occupied now, but it seemed like that might fit better than next to the gas station.
We can definitely explore.
The tanks and everything are right there
Yeah.
at that side of their site.
Yeah, the
Fire
existing-
department might have some comments on that, I don't know if they will or not, but.
We went back basically along the same line as the building is currently, the existing building. And that was one of the reasons, was just to avoid our driveway exiting basically kind of at the same time or entering at the same time, that be confusion with the gas station or Honeydew. There's, certain times of the day, there's quite a bit of traffic coming out there.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm sure we're gonna come to agreement and go forward, if not exactly with this, with something very much acceptable to everybody. And it's gonna be so much better for the community. I've seen some of your other projects and just from the outside, but very impressed with your work.
Thank you.
And our building inspector's had experience with you in another community he worked prior to Norwood, and he has good things to say about you and
Good.
as business people and the job you've done. So I look forward to it. These are some of the concerns I want to see
Yeah.
some addressed a little further than we have now. Know that they've been addressed, know that we have commitments to them, and then ready to go after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plasko. Mr. Donnelly?
Thank you, gentlemen, for presenting, just building on what Mr. Plasko said. So what kind of relief will you be looking for from the zoning board of appeals? Obviously, we had the discussion about building height, but are there other elements of the project that you will be seeking relief?
Well, obviously the density will be
Yeah.
one that's there.
Mhm.
The parking, there will be a few, we'll need to do up a list of all of the variances that are required, but the typical ones that will be there, the density would obviously be the big one. Height of the building will be another, parking ratio, for that location. It's in a weird spot, it's in two zones.
Yeah.
The site, it's split, it's in the rear part of it is residential, the front part of it is commercial,
Yeah.
so there may
Yes.
even be relief
I was
in that regard.
gonna ask you about that, yeah.
Yeah, it's split horizontally basically across the site into two separate zones.
It's
So
a-
that will require some playing around as well.
A little complicated.
Yes.
Compliments for taking on the project, that, that, to Mr. Plasko's point, that particular building, has been a site of blight for a long time here, so it's good that there's a potential to change that property into something new and different. Your ultimate plan, and I think when I met with the individual, I think you addressed this too, but in your LIP agreement would require the 25% of the units to be affordable.
That's correct.
Would there be any differences between what you offer for affordable apartment versus?
We don't distinguish.
Okay, very good. I don't go to Dover too much, being from Norwood, but I have had opportunity to pass through Route 109 in that building in Dover, and my compliments. That is a very well-constructed building from my view. So I'm wondering if the board would be interested, is Ms. Dixon coming in for a meeting this month on Section 3A?
yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe we can add to the agenda item from a planning perspective, just sort of reorientation, if you will, on the LIP process. Mr. Plasko had some very important questions regarding affordability renewal and things like that. I wonder if that's an opportunity for us to kind of get those pieces of information and questions answered,
Yeah,
if we could.
I think that's good.
Other than that,
You wouldn't have to be here
Yeah,
for that.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
just sort of for our own edification.
otherwise, I have no other questions. I appreciate your time and the effort you put into giving us a very detailed overview of your proposal.
Thank you.
Mr. Plasko.
If I may, another thought. If you're given any consideration, instead of a LIP to a 40R,
We have looked at it initially. I'm not sure how the town's approach is to 40R. It's definitely something we can discuss. It's a similar, I know 40R has to go before town meeting. I believe.
yes, we did. We were the first community in the state to do a 40R, and we've done a couple others since.
Yeah.
But we've also have, in the recent history, turned down one as well that is now Avalon Bay. But a 40R had been proposed for there as well. So we have 3 of not 4 of them in town now. It does get you back to town meeting.
Yes.
But we're going through some growing pains right now. We have the 3A zoning. We have a group that's just getting started to talk about a townwide master plan, of which a big part, not 100%, but a big part of it is what future zoning will be like. And personally, I can't imagine that whatever conclusion the town comes to, that the Washington Street corridor won't be housing or mixed use. I guess I want to say more than just housing. And so 40R, I don't know why they would turn the 40R down,
Yeah.
because we're going to get the housing likely anyhow, some portion of it, and with the 40R, we get paid.
Yes.
We make some money on a 40R.
Yes. It wouldn't be huge on a 34-unit building, but there's
Right.
definitely, the town would benefit from that regard.
Thank you.
Mr. Plasko. Ms. Grow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only other thing I forgot to mention that I did want to explicitly call out was I'm very excited about the full accessibility aspect with the elevator. One of the things that we've been learning about a lot as we're, getting more involved with, say, dementia-friendly communities and the senior housing needs as population ages nationwide, the need for accessibility. There's a lot of housing units that aren't accessible at all. And so the more accessibility we can add to new projects that are coming in, the better off we'll be from a community standpoint. So I'm very excited about that, and I wanted to make sure that I highlighted it.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. So the downside of going last is that a lot of my colleagues steal all the good questions, especially Mr. Plasko. Just had a few, though. In terms of the affordable units, do you know yet the makeup of what that would be in terms of bedrooms? Because from sort of my experience, I know that having affordable 3-bedroom units is fairly rare in the town. So that, I would just suggest that if there's a way to make more of a concentration of those larger units.
So that there's a requirement for 10% to be 3-bed.
Right.
That's a state requirement, but so again, 10% of 8 units So there'll probably end up being 2 or 3 of them would end up being 3-bed units. But
And
you have to have some of them 3 beds.
Right, and I think what I'm saying is I understand the requirements, but if there's a way to sort of bump
Yeah.
that up, I think those are things that are helpful.
We're definitely open to
Good.
consideration of things like that.
And in terms of abutters, have you met with any abutters? I'm assuming you plan to.
I haven't met with any of the residential abutters at the rear. I have met with the owners of the gas station, and we met initially with the lady who owns the commercial building on the left-hand side as well, the jewellery store.
Yes.
She was excited that the property was going to be developed as well. I have presented the drawings to the gentleman that owns the gas station, so he's kind of taken a look at them himself
Okay.
things as well. So yeah, I've gone through it.
And for reference, the commercial property that is adjacent, that's not the gas station, the other side, how high is that property?
That's a 2-story, it's kind of 2.5 story. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you can see it's a 2-story, but there's
Not
a
quite
higher
3.
roof on it.
Yeah.
Not quite 3, correct.
And it's further back, so.
It's a bit further back.
Okay. Yeah, I used to drive by your Medfield project on the way to work fairly often, and so, certainly seeing your work, and I know Mr. Plasko mentioned your relationship with our building inspector, Mr. Pelletier, and he speaks highly of your operation, so I think that's beneficial. I do appreciate the way that you're going about this. We met initially a few months ago, and then you have since reached out to individual board members and discussed the plans, and so I appreciate that. I think that, as Mr. Plasko mentioned, the next step is to get the abutters involved, because I think people will take an interest in this, because although that property that is there, the commercial property or the hybrid property, everyone would love to see that replaced. People will have opinions on how many units you're talking about. You know this.
Of course.
In terms of being here for tonight, as I mentioned, we're not taking a vote, it's not a public hearing, this is just informational. This is sort of the public's first chance to get a look at this project. I would not be surprised if one of those renderings is on the front page of our local newspaper tomorrow night, so just preparing you for that, or the following week. But in terms of process, or in terms of your timeline, not that you have to show us everything tonight, what are you thinking in terms of when you'd like to be in front of the zoning board, when you'd like to be back in here?
Obviously, we would like to move this forward, as rapidly as we can. There is a whole state process to go through, which takes a certain period of time. That typically takes 3 to 4 months to go through that. Then we got to go through the ZBA and all the different town processes, including obviously the whole building permit process, finalising plans. So there's quite a few steps to it. So obviously, the quicker we can move any of these steps along, it speeds up the entire thing. I would like to be back as soon as we can get you guys some of the answers. I think what I'm hearing from this, I'll look at setting up a meeting with some of the abutters in the next few weeks if I can. And once we've got an opportunity to do that and address some of the other items, I'll look at meeting with the fire department, things like that as well. And as soon as we have an opportunity to do that, we would look to maybe get back before you guys as well.
Good.
So,
And then just a few more. Thank you for your answer. In terms of the parking spaces, how did you come to that calculation?
well, we basically maxed out what we could get within the footprint.
Okay, and that, so with the trash being inside, obviously you're not
That
having
was
a
one of the
dumpster
reasons that
outside.
freed up an additional 2 spots.
And then,
Without impacting inside, and we believe there's other positives to it as well. We had to play around with them to get turning circles for our fire trucks, things like that as well, subject to their review.
right,
But-
the turning radius,
Yes.
and- yeah. And I would just imagine that, there are trees there, a lot of them are shrub trees and things like that, but anything that you can include in your plan additional to the retaining wall,
Yeah.
in terms of fence, foliage, things like that. Especially, I would encourage you to get feedback from butters then.
Yeah, and at some point we will obviously have to do a full landscape plan for
Yep.
it along with that as well.
Okay, I think that's all my questions. Do you have any questions for us, or Mr. Sad?
Mr. Chairman, good point, and also Mr. Plasko, but I would maybe get a hold of Mr. Manager, the zoning secretary for that 300-foot, like we used to years ago, mail out 300
Radius.
Oh,
letters,
yeah,
300.
and let them mail them out, that way it's not on you,
Yeah,
when they're verified that somebody sent them out.
That could be something we could speak to Ms. Dixon about when she's here next week.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there.
Good idea.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Shen. Do you have any questions for us at the moment?
I don't think so. I think we've got kind of an idea of what's required, basically.
Good, yeah.
We do think we have the basis of a nice project on a site that definitely needs cleaning up. And, we're willing to work with you guys to come up with a project that works for the site.
Great, well, thank you for being here, we appreciate it, and we will see you again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we left off with, we'll go back to new business, item 4.1, for setting the date for May special and annual town meeting. Mr. Mizuko.
Mr. Chairman, somewhat ministerial in nature, given that the bylaw sets when we actually will have town meeting in May, but it is that time to set the town meeting, annual and special for May. We're looking at May 13th and 16th, and of course would continue on the following Mondays and Thursdays as needed until town meeting concludes its business.
Excellent, great.
Do we have to formally call this meeting?
It's worth voting to do it, even though, as I said, the bylaw pretty much sets when it is, but.
Well, it sets the annual,
Correct,
the special,
is
and
discretionary.
even then, we still technically have to call, even though it's set.
Is that, oh, Mr. Donnelly, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just looking at your memorandum, so March 12th, articles for May town meeting due to the Board of Selectmen. So that's when all articles need to be submitted to us? Is that the
Correct.
drop dead date?
Well, we would like it to be. We set that as an internal date for us for articles. There's still a little bit of flexibility. Obviously, the budget, depending on some late year changes, the motion, if you will, undergoes it. But generally, we would like to know by that date what is actually going to be on the warrant.
We have a little bit of leeway since we're not going to sign the warrant until April 9th, but I see your point, yes.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? Mr. Plasko?
You want the motion? or
I
do you
think
wanna
so.
wait?
No, let's do it.
Mhm.
Move to approve, call special annual town meeting, and annual and special town meeting as recommended by general manager and staff.
Motion made by Mr. Plasko for setting the date, or recommended, the recommendation of setting the date for the May annual and special town meetings. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Donnelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Great. Item 4.2, preliminary warrant articles for March town meeting. Mr. Mizuko.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaking of town meeting, we had set an internal deadline for any articles that any boards or committees or staff would need for the March town meeting, which is, we are trying to focus just on land use for March town meeting. We're trying to move our land use to once a year. There are going to be times we're not able to make that, but so that we can focus most of our outreach and information on just land use, given that it's quite a bit to try to do in a May town meeting where we're looking at a budget, we're looking at CPA, we're looking at other changes, and we want to jump into land use. So this is the first year we're sort of doing it this way. We've been gearing up for the last couple of years to do it. We've been working on getting notice out and getting sort of departments and boards and committees aligned. So we're ready to go forward. The planning board did approve 6 articles for inclusion on the warrant in March. It will be 6 warrant articles plus possibly a CPA adjustment or off-schedule article. That we're still not final on, but the 6 zoning articles, nothing further, will be coming from planning board.
Yeah, I happened to be at a planning board meeting last night, and they did take the recommendation from staff to approve sending these to the selectmen for inclusion on the warrant. They haven't had the hearings and taken positions necessarily.
Yep. Ms. Dixon did send something out to me this afternoon reflecting what Mr. Plasko said, so appreciate it. Okay, do we need anything on this, Mr. Mizuko?
I don't believe anything is needed. We're gonna go ahead and prepare the warrant and the variety of other presentations and yellow sheets and everything else as we normally do. The planning board will have their process. The board will have a chance to weigh in on these, and if we haven't, we'll get the actual wording as close as we have it out to everyone for review as soon as possible.
Great, and the big one will be obviously the 3A.
Correct.
So it's fortuitous that we had talked about making land use for March, because we've got some land
We're
use.
starting with a bang.
Okay. Anything else from the board on this? You're good, Mr. Donnelly? You're all set, Mr. Mizuko? Okay. Skipping ahead, I think we are at memoranda. Christine is saying yes. Thank you, Christine. Okay. Pleasure of the board, but also giving Mr. Donnell the opportunity if there's anything that you'd like to say here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on memorandum, just some highlights. Included in the memoranda is 5.2 is the report from the ad hoc Stormwater Utility Committee. Basically, the next steps for that committee is they continue through this month and next to have community meetings regarding the stormwater system. There's actually one coming up. I'll speak to that in my own addenda later. But I'm also wondering whether or not perhaps as we move past the March timeframe or near the March timeframe that we may be interested in learning a little bit more subsequent to the report, a little more about the specific item of fee structure for stormwater. The committee has had CDM Smith consultants in to talk to us about best practices and how they work. And I was going to suggest that perhaps in that time frame we bring CDM Smith in to give us an orientation about practices regarding financing stormwater systems. Additionally, Mr. Mizuko, you know better than I, it probably is worth our while, given that report, that town council should review and guide us in terms of what, from a legal perspective, we need to.
Yeah, we have town council undergoing a review just to make sure procedurally should we go forward exactly what the steps are. The report is really the recommendation of the committee. They've done a lot of work over several years.
And again, they'll be back. The committee will be back to confirm back to the selectmen that they have conducted their community outreach. And at that point, I'm assuming that the committee will have done its task, and then it will move on to the next stage. So thank you.
Great. Anything further? Okay. Do we have a motion to?
Motion of file for information?
Motion to file made by Ms. Groh, seconded by Mr. Sad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. That brings us to the manager's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, I'd like to present an update to the board on the state's location of a temporary shelter here in Norwood, and what that means for us. Just a little bit of the origins, as I think most of the board members and members of the public know, the state is currently sheltering about 7,500 families throughout the state. Let me actually make this a little bit easier to see. Several thousand families have been sheltered for some time, consistent with the state's existing shelter system. This system has been at capacity for quite some time, necessitating the state to begin leasing hotels as temporary sites. The recent additions to the state, recent individuals who are being added to the state shelter system are here legally. They're here as part of a federal program where they have been granted temporary leave into the country while they await an asylum hearing. So I know we hear a lot of discussion about immigration and migrants and who's here legally or illegally. We, at the local level, do not get involved in that. We actually legally can't get involved in somebody's immigration status. However, folks being placed in shelters through this program are here through a legal federal program. New arrivals are generally processed at a state center in either Quincy or Barnstable and then sent to locations where the state has space. In our particular case, the state is opening what they're calling a consolidated shelter here in Norwood, which is they're closing some of the year, or we're not renewing contracts in some of their smaller hotel and motel sites and condensing them into singular hotels. Sometimes the state would rent 8 or 10 or 12 rooms at a motel or a couple rooms here or there. They're consolidating them down to fewer hotels so that all those sites can be managed. In terms of our preparations to date, knowing that this was possibly coming down the pipeline, staff, including key school staff, have meetings in September in preparation. We worked under the premise that we would be a first stop for new arrivals. That obviously ended up not being the case. Early on, we had figured we would not likely be a site in Norwood, given a lot of our typical challenges. The hospital is down. Route 1 is not particularly walkable, I think, as everyone knows. Early on, the state was offering rates to hotels of maybe $100 a night, and they had to include meals. The state is now offering sometimes up to $210 per night per room. So I think the economics just ended up making it feasible for a hotel in Norwood to want to say yes. We began developing our response plans, planning documents, and conceptualizing services required, how we would go about them. We did meet with officials and toured sites in other communities to gauge their response efforts and learn from their experiences. The town of Plainville in particular was very helpful. We had a number of staff and some elected officials who went down there just to sort of see what other towns were dealing with. Again, in the event that we, at the time, back in the fall, the state was giving towns 3 days' notice, 2 days' notice that families were showing up. The state has since changed their system, and now we're, I guess, fortunate we have a few weeks' notice. The state, as I mentioned, is consolidating a number of shelters across the state. They have booked one 94 hotel room in Norwood that will be entirely new arrivals who have previously been housed elsewhere, and I'll explain what that means. The state is ending contracts with hotels in other towns, moving folks to a hotel here in Norwood. The state runs 50 or 60 of these sites. They're reducing the overall number of sites, but not reducing the total number of rooms available. We have had about a dozen families in a Norwood hotel. The state, prior to this recent surge, the last 6 or 8 months, had always used hotel rooms in temporary cases for temporary shelter. There had been some here prior to this recent last 6 months or so that the state is also consolidating into, again, this one site, because that site is not managed. It's 12 rooms mixed in with regular hotel business, which the state did for many years, but their needs have apparently grown. We're anticipating this to
Can I
take...
interrupt you and ask a question?
Yep.
If you know the answer. The state, you said these are people who are already in the program, if you were located somewhere else, being relocated. Why are they relocating? They're disrupting families at whatever school they've gotten into.
I agree with you completely, Mr. Plasko. In our case, you have families locating from a larger hotel to a smaller hotel right down the road after they've gotten settled in. The state is trying to reduce the total number of sites they have. The idea being that, at least what we're hearing from DPH and the other state agencies involved in it, they're trying to reduce the number down so that they can make sure that there's a site manager for each site where they are. If you have 12 families in one hotel and 18 families in another one and 9 in a motel down the road and 20 rooms over here, the state has found it nearly impossible to provide services and coordinate services. On the other end, towns have faced a problem with there's no one to reach at the state because every agency has a little piece of the pie. My understanding is the state's goal is that by having fewer sites, more rooms, they have an entirely managed site. Any case management they're providing, any language services they're providing, it's all at one site. It makes it easier for them to manage. They may have done this from the beginning if they had been able to plan for the beginning, but the numbers just grew and grew and grew and then have grown to a number where the state, even though they're saying they're at capacity, are renting out 8,000 rooms across the Commonwealth.
Thank you.
That being said, I'm not...
Sorry for the interruption, but thank you for the
No,
answer.
please, as many questions as you have, and what I don't know, we will get you answers to, and we'll go in how we're gonna let the public know. We don't know everything. We're just interpreting the state and listening to them, and they've worked with us, but we are the little guys, if you will. The state hasn't given too much of an exact timeline in terms of how long this is going to take place. Our analysis, again, anyone can sort of read the tea leaves, is that it's likely a long-term situation, not likely to abate anytime soon. As we mentioned, these new arrivals coming in do have a date for an asylum hearing. Some of those in other communities are a few weeks out. Sometimes in the same group of folks, they're 2 years out. We do not control the asylum system or these dates or anything. That is all handled with the federal government, so we have no timeline on that. We also have no timeline on work authorizations. State officials that we've talked to at different levels have assured us and all the different state associations, the managers, the mayors, the superintendents, the finance, everyone, the state's briefing every group that's out there, the MMA. Nobody has an exact answer. We're just being told they're working diligently on getting work authorizations so that some of these folks could go ahead and work if they want to. There are cases where sporadically people do have work authorizations. Again, some have been here longer than others, but that seems to be the exception rather than the norm. But there's also not simply a 1-800 number we can call and say, when are we getting these work authorizations in? Mr. Johns, do you have a question? Do you want me to?
No, continue, Tony, please.
Okay. So what's perhaps most relevant to us, is there an anticipated impact to municipal services? Public safety, speaking with both Chief Brooks and Chief Bailey, anticipate no impact to the town's public safety. And that's based on their communications and their research and their site visits to other towns. There are going to be 90 families at a hotel. 90 rooms booked, I shouldn't say 90 families. It's going to be about 75 families at a relatively small hotel. Anytime a hotel is that full, you're going to occasionally have police or fire calls, but neither Chief Brooks nor Chief Bailey feel that it's going to be any impact other than if the hotel was otherwise full. Towns that have been hosting new arrivals, they did report the first 10 days or so. There's a bit of an increase in calls as people figure out what they're doing, what number to call for different municipal services. They said that all died down after about 10 days. Because our arrivals have been housed elsewhere for several months, town about a half an hour from here, we're not anticipating that same that same issue. We could be wrong, but based on what the chiefs have seen in other communities, no impact is likely the case. In terms of the revenue loss, it's next to impossible to predict. The state is paying these hotels. They are collecting a healthy charge from the state. Property tax, water, sewer, electric, that all stays the same. That's no different. We do have a 6%, 6.25% local option hotels tax. The Commonwealth, under the current law, pays that for 90 days. The governor's office has stated that they are looking at a way to continue to reimburse towns beyond that. The law doesn't have a provision for it. Given the state's revenue concerns, I don't know that that's going to materialize.
Is this where you got the 40,000 from?
So we do about $1 million in hotel revenue a year.
That's
Spread out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, spread out over 5 hotels. If you were to divide it evenly, that's $200,000 for a hotel, but we're well aware that some of the lower volume hotels, they're not generating that amount of business. So it's our best guess at this is what it cost, absent the state paying us. If the state goes to paying that full rate on a fully booked hotel for 3 months, we might actually make out this year, not that that's the goal. If we completely lose that hotel for a year, there's a potential revenue loss because we're not able to book it. However, we do have 2 of the 5 hotels in town are usually at a low occupancy, so you could assume that whoever would normally book in Hotel A is simply going to book in Hotel C. One of our larger hotels in town is voluntarily reducing their occupant load because they have construction going on. I'm more concerned about that having a revenue impact. It is possible that the rooms shift and there's no impact. If you ask me to guess on a number, I'll throw that out there. Could be nothing,
Right.
could be twice that. It's a ballpark.
So that 40,000 is the 6.25% that you don't.
That we would not be collecting in theory, but again, it's highly speculative. We get the total revenue amount from the state, and we can estimate it based on what we get from our meals tax.
Right.
Our hotels tax, but it's not broken down by business. So
Right.
you could, I would suspect that our largest hotel in town is probably a majority of that revenue. Also, given the rate that they charge and how often they're booked.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
So as I said, completely speculative on our part, and would not likely hit us this fiscal year. But we may want to adjust slightly down or be a little bit more conservative in our hotel revenue projections going forward. In terms of school-age children added to the school system, there will be about 40. That is the number that we've gotten. That is, assuming the state goes forward, they are with this hotel. We are in contact with the district that is sending them. That number, we've been told, is 40 students. The state is providing an education subsidy to provide coverage for that cost. It is $104 per day per child. That should cover our costs with mandatory transportation and any other needs. The sending district had a negligible impact on staff, so we should be in a good shape given what's coming. And we certainly have some size concerns, just given that we have older, smaller, but beautiful elementary schools. We may have to spread that 40 students out a little bit more than other towns would, which might lead to a slightly higher transportation cost, but at this point it doesn't look as critical as when we were worried that perhaps if we got 150 students, we'd have to somehow build a school in the middle of the year, which is certainly not possible and not going to happen. We don't know if we're going to continue to get that $104 per day per student next year, but if these students factor into our regular student aid numbers, the state provides through their formula aid for them. So I think we can breathe a sigh of relief that this doesn't appear to be the somewhat devastating impact that it could have been. There are smaller towns that had 25 kids going to a building that's completely full and they don't have any other buildings, and it's really created a number of problems. So we've somewhat skated by that, hopefully fortuitously, but remains to be seen. In terms of the town's role, it's actually fairly limited. We may try to coordinate some local wraparound services. I think, as the board knows, we don't do social services at the local level. That's handled by the state. We don't have an appropriation for it. We don't have a system to be able to handle anything like that. This site is going to be a monitored site, which means that the state will have a service provider there. So residents of the site who may need access to different state programs will coordinate through this individual. One member of the board and a member of the FinCom have reached out to me and volunteered to coordinate any citizen interest in helping out these folks, working with them, and I think that's great. I think the community will probably respond very positively, but that will be something that we'll certainly support, but will really be a citizen and volunteer led process. As some families came to towns, there was a need early on for things like winter coats and some sanitary products. We do not believe we will have that need because, again, these folks have been housed in Massachusetts for several months. So again, that makes our job, if you will, a little bit easier. We do have to respond to any complaints we receive. Even though the state declared a state of emergency, they signed a contact, we do have to respond to any health code issues or any building code issues that may come up. Just some of the concerns that we've expressed to the state, but again, to be clear, we don't get a veto, we don't get a yes, we don't get a no. We are sort of voluntold for this after the fact, and don't really have any control. We have let the state know that Route 1 is not walkable. We will be sending a letter to the hotel owner requesting they provide transportation, certainly not within our purview to do so. But Route 1 is not generally very walkable. I think most folks in town know that, and very few people actually walk on it. We think that the hotel should be providing some transportation services. They are getting upwards, based on a low estimate, of at least $10,000 a day from the state, so we think that they can certainly provide that. We don't have a hospital in town. We don't have public clinics. We don't technically have an urgent care within our borders, although one is opening. So we've let the state know that serviceability is relatively limited. This particular facility has not always been the most responsive to us in the past, and again, we've communicated that to the state, and they are well aware of it. We certainly understand the problem that the governor and her staff are facing in just trying to manage this serious issue. We have been in touch with our delegation. Senator Rush and Representative Rogers have offered support to the town and have been communicating with us with any support we may need from them, which we certainly appreciate. That's really it. We do have a letter that is ready to go out to, I think Dr. Thompson's going to send it to parents in the school system. We'll send it to town meeting members. We'll get it on the website. It comes with frequently asked questions. We would be happy to answer any questions that anyone has. You can email us at managers@norwoodma.gov with the understanding that we're really trying to find you the answer. We generally don't have the answer as to a lot of the hows or whys or lengths. We are just able to react the best we can to the situation. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has, understanding that we may have to just get back to you. It's not necessarily something we're entirely in control of.
Okay. Thank you for putting this together, Mr. Mizuko. I think I'll open it up to the board. I just want to say, with things like this, I think there can be a tendency to have a lot of misinformation out in the ether, and whether that means social media or just people talking, I think it's helpful to have this come from Town Hall for this memo that has been put together. Things like that, I think that's constructive, and I appreciate your efforts, Dr. Thompson's efforts to put those together. That being said, certainly if the board have comments at this time.
That's all?
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation, and particularly, I took note of your last slide there in terms of the concerns that you did raise from the state, and I think they're legitimate, but I think it needs to be said that in spite of those concerns, the state has positioned us here. But other than that, I'm flipping through the communication and the frequently asked questions. It looks like a very good document, and I think that it will be helpful for the community to have access to this document as well. Answers a lot of questions.
Yeah, and I'll just add, thank you, Mr. Donnelly. You know, in terms of the concern of being on Route 1 and with children and families, I mean, I think it's a valid concern, and you're talking about you know, if these 40 children are in school during the day, what are they doing after hours and on the weekends? Are they getting recreational opportunities and things like that? And I think that's where these community groups can be helpful, and hopefully also the hotel can be helpful in terms of transportation. I think it's I really appreciate that you've put pressure on them to provide those things, because they are getting money from the state to do that. I know that other towns, communities around us have formed task forces. You know what I'm saying, and I think it's an opportunity for institutions of faith or just community organizations to do that. And so it's not anything you didn't say in your presentation, but I think there is opportunity for us to be helpful.
Absolutely, and they're now Norwood residents. They're going to be here for a while, and I think the community will rise to the occasion as it always does.
Great, thank you. Okay, anything else from an update from you?
No, just Mr. Donnelly, did you want to address capital outlay, or would you like me to?
No, you go right ahead.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add if I need to.
Thank you. At the board's next meeting, we're going to have an early preview of next year's capital outlay plan. It's still very preliminary. We're still collecting data, and department heads still have time to get it in, but we're going to go over that with the board just so the board has an earlier look at what will eventually be on November's warrant. It's very early out, but it's just going to be an initial look at where we are and what we're possibly looking at come November.
Yeah, and I just, as being on the capital outlay committee, I appreciate that. I think being your representative on capital outlay, it's always good that I'm fully informed of what at least the draft plan is going forward. And it's timely because capital outlay is going to be meeting its first meeting of the year on January 30th. So if we can meet on the 23rd, get a preview.
You took December off.
We took December off. Who doesn't?
Okay.
See if you can get the closest as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Mr. Mizuka, anything else?
That is it, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Okay, Selectmen's addendum. Mr. Sad.
Happy New Year to all the people here tonight and to out in the TV land. I want to thank Bill and Bob and Amanda and Mr. Chairman, you didn't attend, but we had the South Norwood Christmas party at the Morse House. It was fantastic. We donated and made some benches for our past chairman, Walter Godovich, Joanne Tonelli, Patty Bailey, Cheryl Nandelli, and Olive Abdella. And we had a great turnout, and Bill said some fine words with Bob, and Joe Welch had the cherry on the cake with his speech, and it worked out perfect. Everything went spectacular. We had a jolly old time. And I want to thank, once again, I get tears when I see the NCM with Jack Tolman and his whole team, Ronnie Marshalsea and Brian and Kiki and everybody else that helps out with this special edition for the Reardon boy and the family. My condolences, but it's just a fantastic TV program that we have, and we should be proud of it. It's just spectacular what they did and how they did it. And I want to thank all the winter teams that are undefeated and working hard and playing hard. So that's it. Keep winning and make Norwood strong.
Excellent, good. Thank you, Mr. Sad. Ms. Grow.
So the two updates for me tonight, one of them is I wanted to extend an early save the date for folks. We're going to have a meet and greet for Impact Norwood on the 25th of this month. So that'll be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and that will be at the Civic Center in the Willett Room. So it's a great opportunity if you are looking to get involved, help out. We're trying to really focus on youth, and we have a new campaign we're going to be starting soon to sort of reiterate young people are listening more than you think they are. And so this meet and greet is a great opportunity if you're looking for something to join up and help out with for the new year. This is an excellent opportunity. And then my second item for the night is just some warm thank yous for everyone in the public works, at the light department, the first responders for their storm response. I got several positive comments from residents on how well the roads were taken care of and people having service. And so very, very grateful for everybody's hard work. And that's it from me tonight.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ms. Grow. Mr. Plasko.
Thank you. We did mention it a little bit earlier this evening, but I just want to remind the public that annual town election is coming up. People should be who are interested, particularly town meeting. We're always trying to encourage more people to get involved, as well as all the major offices in town. Will be up for election on April 1st, good old April Fool's Day. And anyone who's interested needs to get started now. You need to get your signatures. Filing deadline with the town clerk's office is February 12th, so you can't get restful with the April date. You have to realize to get started early. And I will be running for re-election. I've decided it's time to go one more time, but the purpose tonight isn't to get into that as much as to remind people you should be thinking about your involvement, being willing to get involved, and now's the time to act. Thank you.
Great. And pleased to hear your decision. The event that was spoken of earlier, for the signature gathering, that's a good opportunity because for elected boards, 50 signatures.
Yes.
Correct. Town meeting 10.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And the date for that?
January, Saturday the 27th.
Okay, perfect.
Noon time.
It's good. Been there in the past, signing people's
Yeah, and
signatures.
it's not a partisan thing. It does, you can meet people, get signatures. It doesn't mean you have to vote for the person that you signed for. If anyone had a question about that, good. Thank you, Mr. Prescott.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Donnelly.
I think last year was an adventure for that event. I think last year was the year that we had a very large storm, and it was so cold, but it was a nice event to be out there at the Common, meeting folks, and I believe many candidates who take advantage of that opportunity get all their nomination signatures attained at that particular event, so encourage people to do that. A couple of updates from me. So we talked a little bit about stormwater a few minutes ago. At the library, January 27th at 7 p.m., there is a program called Stormwater Management in Norwood. This is a presentation that is presented by the Neponset River Watershed Association, as well as Holly Jones from our own planning department, as well as Alan Slater, who's a member of FinCom and also is a member of the Ad Hoc Stormwater Utility Committee. So that's 7 to 8:30 on the 17th. It'll be a really interesting discussion to get to know just how stormwater is managed in Norwood and the challenges associated with that. I'd like to tell the board that we had our first meeting of the master plan back in the middle of December. Very good meeting. I think it was December the 12th. Looks like it's going to be a really good group to work with. Great initial meeting. We made some initial assignments for subcommittees. Ms. Dixon gave us a copy of a draft RFP request for proposals that we're looking at in order to go out and for bids for planning consultants to help guide us through that process. And our next meeting is the 29th. Actually, we actually established a couple of subcommittees, one to look at the RFP as well as a communications subcommittee, and we'll do some more organizational work when we meet again on the 29th of this month. Food composting pilot. We've got a meeting now going tomorrow. We're bringing in our composting vendor, Black Earth. We've established a working committee from the town that consists of Mr. Rosen, Mr. Ryan, from the manager's office and from the DPW, myself, and I believe Heather Olins from our Sustainability Commission. So we have a good team of people to work with Black Earth to kind of put some structure and context around that pilot, and we'll have further updates in terms of how that progresses, in particularly from the publicity standpoint and getting people information needed to understand how it will work and to get enrolled in the pilot. Community preservation, just we are having a meeting on January 24th. The Community Preservation Committee is having a series of meetings regarding the projects under consideration for this year. The Morris Hill Veterans Park will go before. I'll be there on the 24th of this month to represent the
I'll be there
application.
with you. Yeah.
Here you are, Mr. I will be welcome to see you. And I want to thank, in terms of capital outlay, I do want to extend the thanks to, the Haas Pool construction. We did receive a $500,000 park grant from the state. At this point, it may not be $500,000 as
If you've read the paper.
the governor is considering 30C cuts, which may mean so we're likely not to get $500,000, but we'll hopefully get a good amount of money in support of the construction at the Haas Pool. But the grant, people involved in getting that grant, I just want to personally thank Mike Rosen, John Kinney from Recreation, and Holly Jones from Planning for working together to put together a really good proposal that did get the acceptance by the state for that grant. And with that, Mr. Chair, that is my end of my discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. I'll just add, you had mentioned the Community Preservation Committee meeting. We're also meeting tomorrow night to discuss a few other projects, including the Veterans Housing Project, potentially for Vernon Street. So those are public hearings, and the public are welcome to come, ask questions. 5:30 in the,
I think they're having it at the Senior Center.
the Senior Center. Well, last week it was at the FinCom room at the Senior Center. Great.
You mentioned veterans housing on Vernon Street. That's a private development, right?
Yes, sir.
Private initiative?
Yeah, yep. That being said, I don't have anything further.
We do have 2 executive sessions.
Yes, so we do have 2 executive sessions. So we will, do we need a motion to, it's been a while since we've done executive
Yes.
session.
Motion to go in. Where is that listed at the end?
It's last page, yeah. Do we have a motion to enter executive session?
For purpose 2 and purpose 6 is indicated on our adjourn to.
Motion made by Mr. Plasko.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Donnelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Did it- roll
Oh,
call?
yes, we got to do roll call. Mr. Sad?
Yes.
Ms. Grow?
Yes.
Mr. Plasko?
Yes.
Mr. Donnelly?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
When the board adjourns, it'll just be adjourning a little bit further.
Yeah.
Just announce that you don't expect any further business other than to open for the purpose of closing the meeting.
Just like you said it, I love it. There will be no further business other than the executive session, and so the meeting is hereby adjourned. Good night.